I really didn't want to make this video, but this guy, I've had my run-in with this guy before, over Gaia gear, because he didn't understand any of it, because it's only in Japanese, and he has no access to any of the Japanese information, so he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And I'm gonna go over a lot of the points here that I wrote in the comments first, and then I'm going to go off to some evidence I have here to show that he is completely wrong. The first thing he says is that Macross II is a parallel world. No, it's not. And the first comment I went through, because he says that Macross II needs retconning and all his other edits to fit in the Macross universe. No, it doesn't. It doesn't need anything. Because Kawamori knew with Plus, with Frontier, with Delta, even Macross freaking Delta is, what, 2067 or something like that in the timeline? It's still 30, like, or 2062, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me check, because I have this nice little book here that came out on December 30th of 2021, which I have 2 copies. It's an entire dissection of the Macross universe, basically, and all the main points. And yes, Macross II is in here. Now let's see. As for, yeah, it was Delta, the timeline for Delta. I need to dig that up real quick. So, here we are. Macross Delta, 80-2067. Macross II, 80-2019. And it is entirely in this particular part of the book. Everything is within the timeline. So you have Macross 0 first. Then you have the original Macross, meaning TV series, movie, and Flashback 2012. Then Plus at 80-2040. And 7 at 2045. Frontier at 2059, Delta at 2067, and 2 at 2090. It is 23 years before Macross II. There's a lot of time in between those 2 series. And this is evident in the Valkyrie designs. If you look at Macross Delta's Valkyrie designs, you look at the Siegfrieds, they have a nice shoulder cannon on them. But the thing is that they also have the fold quartzes in them as well. Now, the fold quartzes, because the Bajra disappeared, and left the galaxy, basically, with Aruto, which is part of that whole Toki no Meikyu garbage, which does nothing for Macross Frontier's story whatsoever. The whole thing is that Kawamori has been very aware of Macross II. Without Macross II, there is no Macross Plus, there's no 7, there's no 0, there's no Frontier, and there's no Delta. You know why? Because Macross II was a hit for an OVA. Now you have to remember, this was a time when OVAs were very popular to be done because they couldn't get the funding to do a full TV series. So they focused on, doing short series that added to the stories in added to the breaks in the timelines in certain stories. Dragon Ball Z did this with movies, with tons and tons of theatrical movies. Macross did it with an OVA, and it was the first OVA, and it was done for the 10th anniversary. And remember, he's right that Big West owns the rights to Macross. Now, I'll show you just this real quick interview. This is an old interview from 2014 when they were releasing the Blu-rays. I have this Blu-ray set. I pre-ordered it because I love Macross 2. I know all about Macross 2. I just watched Macross 2 yesterday because I wanted to watch it again. I have the limited edition, 3-week production, limited edition Macross 2 Blu-rays. To buy these Blu-rays now, an unopened package is going to cost you anywhere from 50 to 60,000 yen. Okay? It retailed, when I bought it, for, I think, 17,000. Because I ordered off Amazon, like, at the time. Okay? You had to pre-order it, and it is now extremely hard to get. And part of the reason why it is so desired is because part of the bonus, the little bonus extra goodies on there, is the CD single. Okay, they're for the Laserdisc box set. They also included an 8cm CD single. You know, the small CDs, the little mini CDs. That had 2 tracks on it. One was the song Moichiro Love You with Kasara Hiroko singing part of it in Marduk. Amazing fucking song. And the other part was a message from Ishtar. And the message from Ishtar was a short little, like, recorded message that Ishtar made for Hibiki after the Marduk had left the solar system, and she's talking about her feelings, like, because at the end of Macross II, she says, please take care of Hibiki, my wonderful rival, or something like that. So Ishtar was admitting that she had feelings for Hibiki. But when, you know, she saw Hibiki kiss Sylvie on the bridge of the Macross, she knew that she had lost the... She knew that you know, Hibiki chose Sylvie. So she decided to go back with her people and teach her people about, you know, the songs of Earth. And you can hear in the way the voice actress, Kasahara Hiroko, how she shows a feeling, like the way that she acts it out. Because I own the actual CD, by the way, but I also have the Blu-ray. I bought the Blu-ray first. I got the CD single, which cost me 3,000 yen. It wasn't cheap. It's the most expensive CD single I own. It shows that she misses Hibiki, but she's trying to, you know, put up a facade like, I don't regret the decision to go back with my people. But there is a sound in the voice where, you know, you can tell she's kind of sad, that she really wants to be with Hibiki. This is one of the reasons this Blu-ray set is extremely expensive, which I own it, okay? So, I want to make that clear. And this interview was done at the time by Hirai Shinichi, who works for Big West, and Takanashi Minoru, who works for Bandai Visual. Who, Bandai Visual and Bandai was involved with the production of Macross II, okay? And, so, and I believe he was also the producer. Yeah, he was a producer of Macross II. So you're getting the words out of the producer himself and a representative of Big West, okay? This is important, because they're telling you straight out that this is canon to the Macross universe, okay? They are explicitly saying this. But homeboy over here, because he doesn't know any Japanese, can't read this interview, can he? Okay? So, what I'm going to do is go over the points that I made in my... For now, I'm going to go over the points I made in here, okay? And then I'm going to explain everything, okay? Which I should have done in... I did a Macross II video for my channel, but not a lot of people watched it. I'm going to post a link here so people can watch it, okay? Alright, so, first, he stated that Studio Nue... He says Studio New, it's Nue, okay? It's Nue. Studio Nue didn't want to do Macross anymore. That's not true. It was Kawamori and Itano from way back when, after they released Flashback. They said, no more Macross. We're done. We're never doing it again. So, Bandai and Big West themselves wanted to do something to commemorate the 10th anniversary of Macross. That is Macross II. Okay? That was a plan by Big West. They asked Kawamori and Itano to come back, and they said no. Okay? So keep that in mind. This is stuff that's not... This information, you have to know Japanese, because Macross II is such a minor piece of Macross now because of stupid Frontier. Because Frontier was so goddamn popular when it came out that now shows like 2 are completely left in the dark. Because people just forgot about it. They don't watch Macross. Zero is similar. The only reason why Zero even has a tiny bit of popularity is because of the fact that Frontier connects to it, and Cheryl Gnome and Mao Gnome and all this other stuff. That's the only reason why even Zero has any kind of, minor following. 2 doesn't have that luxury. You had to be there when 2 was released to be able to understand it or to be able to like it, because nobody has watched it. And it doesn't help that Macross, the mobile game that ended service last month, didn't even touch Macross 2 at all. But in all the media, which goes right here to my comment right here, in all associated media, going back to 1997, okay? Because I have a poster. I got this off Mercari, this Japanese, not really auction site, but it's like a direct seller site. Instead of like an auction, you can just buy it now right away. It's kind of like that. It's just a shopping site for used stuff, and you can just buy it right away when you see it. And you can also, negotiate the prices down a little bit if you want to try to get a cheaper price on something. Okay? I ordered this poster off Mercari, and the specific reason, it's a double-sided poster. One side is promoting Macross Dynamite 7 OVA. So it's got Basara Miren on it, right? The other side is another entire poster of, let me see if I can dig it up here. Real quick. Jugoshin Nen poster. Let's see if I can find the picture of this. This is the poster I own. Okay? We have Mime. We have Basara. We have Mirenu, and of course Mirenu here. We have Myung. Oh, guess who this is? This is fucking Ishtar. So you see, this is going back to the this is going back to the 15th anniversary when they were doing the when they're doing Dynamite 7, okay? I own this poster. It's sitting right behind me, okay? And here is the Mega Road course for this special 15th anniversary thing. There's a Planet course and a Mega Road course. The Mega Road course has the memorial box for Macross 2 lovers again. Sounds like they're promoting Macross 2 even during the era of Macross 7. So, and here, just to show this is an actual picture of the poster of what it looks like when you have it all spread out, right? Okay. So, if it's not canon, why is there Ishtar on promotional material for the 15th anniversary, huh? That's where I'm going to start there, okay? And I mentioned the little book I have. So this is talking about the 15th anniversary B2 size poster. That's Ishtar on it. And then this big examination thing, this thing, is where I went to check the year of when Delta's events happened, which is 2067, right? And this was released right after the second Delta movie. The second Delta movie was actually still in some movie theaters around New Year's of last year, okay? Very few, but it was still in a couple. Up in Tokyo, I know there was a couple that were still doing it. This was released to go along with the promotion of, to keep kind of the Macross fever going with the second Delta movie being out. I saw the second Delta movie in the theater 3 times, okay? Which is why I know all about all this stuff, okay? Because I'm in Japan, right? I understand Japanese. I get to go do these kinds of things. Okay? So, and and on top of that, at the Tezuka Osamu Museum, I think it's in Kobe, if you go on the official Macross channel, the Japanese Macross channel, they have what's-her-face who plays Freya and Delta, along with the producer of Delta, and they're walking through it. There's a nice little section for Macross II there. Okay? They even show it on the video. If you go to the Macross channel and you go take a look at that, you'll see it right there. If Macross II is not canon, why is it being promoted everywhere? Then, another thing. One of the writers for Macross 7, and he also worked on Do You Remember Love, by the way, Tomita Sukehiro. He was the main writer for Macross 2. He was also one of the main... For most of the episodes, like more than half of the episodes, were written by Tomita for Macross 7. Okay? He was the main guy behind Macross 2. He implanted so many of the Macross 2 songs. Even in the Macross 7 Plus little shorts, there's one, Miria the President. The song that plays in the background is Scooper. Where's Scooper from? Oh, that's right, Macross 2. In one of the episodes where Firebomber, in Macross 7, this is one of the early episodes, in Macross 7, they go to watch this, like, you know, talent competition or something, and right before the vampire attacks the the saxophone players or something that's playing on stage and steals his spiricha, the song that they start to play is Ima wa Tomodachi, which is the Wendy Rider song from episode 3 of Macross 2. Okay? Then, in various episodes, I don't remember all the episodes off the top of my head, but there were, I think, 3 or 4 episodes, there was a song on the second soundtrack CD. So there were 2 soundtracks to Macross 2. There were 2 CDs. They were sold separately. I own both of them. Yes, this is how much I love Macross 2. On the second CD, there's a vocal track by Sato Yuka. It was unused in Macross 2. He used it in the background of Macross 7 in at least 3 episodes. I don't remember all the episodes off the top of my head, but it's a song that in one of the episodes, on the TV screen in the background, there's a girl with green hair singing it. Okay? That girl with green hair is Sato Yuka, which at the time was Sato Yukio. She's credited in Macross 2 as Sato Yukio, but after that she changed her name or whatever to Sato Yuka. That song is playing in the background. Okay? When you watch Macross 7 again, pay attention to that. Okay? Then, and then he talks about how Macross 2 doesn't involve the series in any way. Well, first, let's go back to here. This interview. Let's see, what page was it on? I think, was it page 3 here? Oh no, it's page 2. Let's see, where was it? Was it this one? Oh no, this is the official Bandai comment, sorry. There was, I can't remember which page it was on. He mentioned specifically that, they wanted to do the exact opposite of what, Macross 2, or what the original Macross did. So they started from a point of the enemy has songs, the main character's not a pilot, and there was one more that he mentioned. I can't remember can't remember where it was. It's on one of these pages. I can't remember. Oh well. But there were 3 points that they started from the point of we're going to do everything the opposite of Do You Remember Love? And that's where they had their starting point. Oh, it was the fighter squadron being all cute girls, which is Fairy Team. Okay, they did a lot of this stuff to not copy Macross, the original Macross. Okay, now I'll go over a few things that I wrote here about that. The enemy uses songs. This is a key point, and it's not just they're singing songs or whatever like in Macross Delta Zeta Raibu. Okay, it's that they're using songs as a way to mine, as a way to keep control and to increase the the fighting spirit, you could say, of the Zentradi that have been brainwashed. Okay. Then the love triangle involves an enemy. This is the only Macross series to do this. Okay, Macross has always had, with the love triangle, it's always been 3 good guys. Like if you look at Hayase, Minmei, and Ichijo, or if you look at Myung, Isamu, and Garudo, or if you look at like Macross 7 is kind of weird, so I'm not even gonna bother with that love triangle because there's like a couple love triangles in that one. Look at Macross 0, Shin, Sara, Mao, all good guys. Macross Frontier, Shiro, Ranka, Aruto, all good guys. Delta, technically there's a couple love triangles there, but they're restricted to the TV series, and Zeta Raibu basically destroys the love triangle arc with Mirage, Freya, and what's his face, Hayate. The second Delta movie basically wipes out the whole love triangle between them. Okay, it also, there's no love triangle between Messer, Arado, and Kaname anymore. And Kaname, even in Delta, the second Delta movie, she's showing a lot of feelings towards Messer. Okay, so there was like no connection to her and Arado very much in the movies. TV series is different. The movies are what are considered to be canon, I guess, because of the second Delta movie. The protagonist is not a pilot. This is the first and only time in all of Macross that this is the case. Okay? Ichijo, pilot. Basara, he's a regular person, but he pilots very well. And, he's a mainstay of the battles, right? So he's actually a pilot. Shin, pilot. Aruto, pilot. Hayate, pilot. Hibiki, reporter. Then, he makes a point that the humans never left Earth. It's a parallel world where humans never left. No. This goes into Macross 7. This goes all the way back to Macross 7. So in Macross 7, there was a... there's a point later in the series where basically the Shin Togogun, which he says the UN space, but it's actually new UN space, right? Shin Togogun. I'll just do the Japanese name because it's better. They basically tell the entire Macross battle group, hey, you guys are on your own. We wash our hands of you. So they're now independent. They're no longer under the support of the Earth government anymore. So this creates this creates the first example of the Earth washing itself of responsibility of all the colony ships. Macross Frontier, there's a group of people on there that are like the Shin Togogun, but they basically wiped out. I mean, even in Macross Frontier in the movies, they're all taken care of. They're gone. Because they basically try to take control of everything and try to take control of Bajra Queen and all this other shit, right? They're all gone. Macross Frontier group becomes independent and they colonize the Bajra Homo, right? the thing is that they were basically like observers there to protect. And they were under direct orders from Earth. But once Leon had his shit going, they were basically on their own. And most of the defense of the Macross frontier colonies was done by SNS, right? It was done by, the battle group with the Macross Quarter, with Ozma and them, right? And they were a private military, okay? They were privately funded, okay? What is Chaos in Macross Delta? Completely privately funded. Right? There's no touching of the Earth stuff, right? And in Macross VFX 2, there's a story path. I don't remember if it's a story path that's actually considered canon based on the events of Macross Frontier. But there's a point where Earth decides, you know what? We're just going to lock ourselves in and we're going to stay right here. You guys take care of your own selves. Another thing, the Macross Galaxy Battle Group, where Cheryl was, right? And the cyborg stuff was going on with Grace and all them, and Brera and all that. Where did they leave from? They left from Eden. They didn't leave from Earth. They were completely devoid of any of the stuff from Earth. They had nothing to do with it. They were a private group. So you can see, there's all this backstory that he doesn't know that shows that Earth basically locked itself in its own little place and wanted nothing to do with anybody. In Macross Delta, the end of the first movie, which I just watched again this morning. Yeah, I just watched it this morning. In Macross Delta, at the end of the movie, Ernest says that, where is it? I actually quoted it here. The Nuns doesn't have any energy left to fight back against, their war crimes, by stealing the DNA shard or whatever that was used to create Mikomo. So they'll agree to peace with Windermere, right? Because Windermere offered a peace treaty after all that happened, right? They asked to have negotiations for peace. So the Earth government is basically like, we don't have the energy to be going through with this, which can also mean to say that they just don't have the military might anymore. They don't want to be involved with this stuff anymore, even though secretly they were doing stupid stuff on Windermere, which Freya, 7 years in 2060, 7 years before the events of Delta, they attacked Windermere and stole that piece because they wanted to, make the Hoshi no Taite and be able to control everybody, right? Which Lady M stole it back and created Mikomo and kind of to hide her away from, the Earth government, and also to hide her away from the to hide her away from the Windermere people too. So, and then he said that the Zentradi that were mind controlled by the Marduk were not affected by the Earth Song. If you watch the very beginning of that first battle scene, they do start to falter, and they are getting beat back, and then the emulator starts singing, and then the Marduk start winning the battle, don't they? And this part of the reason this is because there is some precedent for this. In the unbroadcast episode of Macross 7, the women's battle group, which was an ace pilot Chloe, who was fighting with media over who was going to be the best ace of all the Meltrandi, right? Whose voice is actually the voice actress for Sailor Moon, by the way. Doesn't sound like her though, so people they wouldn't realize it. But in that episode, they make mention to all of the splintered Zentradi fleets that are out in the universe. At the end of Do You Remember Love, they said in just this galaxy, there's over 10,000 groups that are still out there. Exodus says it at the very freaking end of Do You Remember Love? Then you have, so you have all these extra Zentradi groups out there that are just, still doing what they were doing before, Do You Remember Love happened with that particular group of Zentradi. And it had been 10 years at the point of the events of Macross II. It had been 10 years since any battles had happened anywhere near Earth. This is why the only two ace pilots are Sylvia and Nex. And they're treated like idols because there's all kinds of propaganda. And, if you look at Windermere in the Delta movies, they throw around, in the added scenes for the movie, they spread propaganda around to make, Watakure look bad, right? So they force Watakure to help Windermere do all their shit, right? But the issue is that this guy doesn't know a damn thing about what he's talking about when it comes to Macross II. He's watching Macross II in a black hole and isolating it away from everything else without realizing how many connections there are to all of the events that are happening that Kawamori has added to the Macross universe. People, and one of the things that they get, and that a lot of people bring up as inconsistencies, is the numbering of the Valkyries. Okay, let's see this. So, the VF-1 was there. The VF-4 is based on the VF-1. And then you have a whole bunch of others like the VF-3, the VF-4, which is the Lightning 3. You have the VF-9 Cutlass, which uses some Zentradi technology. You have the VF-11, which is the Thunderbolt, which becomes the next generation of VF-1s. It's kind of like the mass-produced one. You have the VF-14 Vampire, which then becomes the base for all the Proto-Devlin Valkyries that went to the planet where the Proto-Devlin were, on the ice planet. You have the 17, which is the Nightmare, which then becomes the main, which then becomes the 171 as a mass-produced unit. But you have to remember, none of these things happen on Earth. These are all, if you pay attention to where all of the events of all of the Macross series that happen at, like, previous to 2, after Do You Remember Love, plus Eden, New Edwards, right? There's the Cheryl Apple incident, but that's like 50 years before Macross 2, right? So that's basically zero impact on anything that happens in 2. Then you have 7, which is in a battle group heading towards the center of the galaxy. I don't remember exactly how far they got. Let me check my book, because I believe they have a little map here of where I believe they have a map here. Let me see. So it has and actually this book has an entire timeline, including the protoculture era. Okay. So keep that in mind. I'm reading from a source book that talks about the entire history of Macross. Okay, it has an entire timeline on the bottom, and it even talks about the protoculture stuff. Okay, let's see. Do they have a map of how far? I forgot. No, this is all the Valkyrie stuff. Oh, no, they don't. Oh, well. Nope, they don't have it. They don't have one in here. Okay. Oh, well. Whatever. But Macross 7 had already been traveling for over 7 years, I think, at that point. I think it left Earth in 2038, and the events are 2045. Then, so they're already pretty far away from Earth. There's no direct connection to Earth there. Macross Frontier is even further away. The Macross Delta is right on the border of the galaxy, where Ragun and Windermere are, is on, the outer side of the galaxy. Okay? So it's on the clear other side of it. Okay? So there's no impact on Earth. You don't actually know what's happening on Earth. And Kawamori did this on purpose. Okay? Kawamori did this completely on purpose, so that it didn't interfere with Macross II. Now, if you have a nuns, a Shintogogun, a new UN species, whatever you want to call them, and this government on Earth that basically locks itself in and says, "Hey guys, you're on your own," and they don't want to get involved in the stuff going on with Windermere, and they don't want to have any like intergalactic legal battle or whatever. They're not going to have the technology. They might, a lot of the stuff like the YF-29, the Durandal, was a privately funded Valkyrie, right? The VF-25s were privately funded, and one of those privately funded was the company that Luca from Macross Frontier, his family owns. They've basically set themselves completely apart. Only the Chaos Group uses the VF-31s, the Siegfrieds, or even the Kronos Pluses, okay? They don't use any of them outside of those limited areas because they're too expensive to make because of the fold quartzes. So, you have an Earth government that doesn't want to get involved in international crap. You have, because they don't want to get involved in all this international crap, they're not putting money into defense because all the fighting is going on away from them. And the only occasional things that are happening is, before the Bajira actually attack anything on Earth, they, and Sayonara no Tsubasa, the second Frontier movie, basically retcons this out of the TV series timeline, about how the Bajira end up on Earth. The events of Sayonara no Tsubasa are the ones that connect to Delta, so, you can't, so the events of the TV series where the Bajira actually show up on Earth don't exist. So the Earth hasn't been involved in anything. In all that time, it could have just been a bunch of, random Zentradi battle groups show up, and they use songs, and they, okay, we're done. The fight's over, we win. And we didn't have to shoot anybody, right? And this video is going to be long, because I have to go through all of these points. And another point that I have to make is that Macross II is not canon, okay? So I've gone over the Valkyrie designs a little bit, how, when you don't have a lot of resources, you're gonna, try to cheap it out on things. The VF2 SS it's based on the VF1, it's the largest of all the Valkyries, okay? It stands the tallest out of all of them. Even taller than the Siegfried, okay? It's the tallest. It's just like the Sturmvogel. It's just like the Cutlass, the VF9. If you look at any of the designs from Delta, you look at the fact that, Messer's Siegfried gets, a couple ghosts stuck onto the side wings, right? And also the shoulder cannons, that's a direct reference to Macross II's VF2 SS, okay? It's a direct reference, okay? So, keep that in mind. And then the fact that these ghosts are completely AI controlled is exactly what the Squires are, except the Squires are lower cost, okay? They don't have missiles on them, they're just like little mini turrets that follow you around, okay? Now, the next part I need to go on to, alright? Macross II not well received in Japan, because he opened his mouth about this, okay? So, let me get rid of this one. This is right out of the producer's mouth, okay? So, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this part here, okay? All of this in Japanese, and then I'm going to explain it, okay? So, 黒歴史でない Macross II。今回出された黒歴史という表現。Macross 7や Macross Plus、Macross 0、Macross Frontier どれも名作ですが、この間でエアポケットにはまってしまった感があります。一方で発売当時はヒット作だった記憶があります。So, this is from Hirai. This is the guy from Big West, okay? He's talking to Takanashi, okay? Homeboy here, okay? He's from Big West. Right? So this time the expression of kurorekshi, which means like parallel world or like lost history or forgotten or like completely ignored, like decanonized is another word you can use. So 7 plus 0 and Frontier are all well known, but they kind of fit in that little pocket of time that's between, you know, the first, between Do You Remember Love Macross II. On the other hand, at the time of release, this key point, because this is the point that this fool makes, 発売当時, at the time of release, I have a memory that Macross II was a hit. Okay? Now, Takanashi, the producer, かなりヒットしました。それに OVA のやり方がいろんなことわからなかった時代ですから、いろいろチャレンジをすることができました。So, かなりヒットしました。This is incredibly important. It was a big hit. On top of that, by using the OVA format, it was an era where we didn't know much about the OVA format, so we could also challenge ourselves to do a lot of different things. There were a lot of new things we could challenge ourselves to do, basically. So, the guy at Big West says, I remember being a hit. The producer says it was a very big hit. That contradicts everything this Know Nothing says, okay? Keep that in mind. Now, to go along with that, this is a quote. The site is gone now, but I have this site here, which copied and pasted the entire comment that was from the official Bandai Visual.co.jp Macross 2 page when they released the Blu-rays. I want to make this point here. This is very important. So keep this in mind. So I'm going to start here, okay? And keep in mind that Macross, what was it? The original Macross, or not the original Macross 2 takes place in 2090, okay? Keep that in mind. It's the furthest in the future, okay? So this part. 第一作の舞台が2009年、それから31年後の40年がマクロスプラス、45年マクロス7、59年マクロスフロンティアと80年の空白。Well, this was stated before Delta came out. Delta was even released. So just keep that in mind. But Delta is 2067, which is 23 years before the events of 2. 80年の空白が次々と生まれていた。マクロス以降のマクロスは大作の最後に語られた人類宇宙民の歴史を描いていたからである。だが、マクロス以降の制作されたマクロ作品によるこれ これら時代設定ゆえに、マクロ2ははるか未来のエピソードっていう遠い存在になってしまう。So, what this is saying is that, so from the first series being in 2009, and Plus being 2040, 7 being 2045, Frontier being 2059, and then all include Delta is 2067, there is, they slowly but surely started filling in the gaps of that 80 years. And after Macross, so the series after Macross II, so not the timeline, but like in release chronology, right? So like Plus 7, blah, blah, blah. So Macross is the first series, was the last to talk about the immigration of humanity into space. And all of the shows that take place after that, so, you know, the Macross Plus is on Eden, you have Macross Frontier, or not Macross, Macross 7, which is out in space, and they're going all these different planets. Then you have Macross Frontier, which they end up going to the Bajara homeworld and colonizing that. And then you have Macross Delta, which the group there had colonized Laguna many years before that. It was like, I think they'd been living on Laguna for like 20 or 30 years or something like that. And they had already incorporated with the local people and all that stuff, like Chuck and that people, right? So, because of all that happening, and they're talking about moving out into space, Macross 2 being stuck on Earth is very different from all the other Macross, right? So, because of that, because of this, Macross 2, because of its position in the timeline, and due to the fact that they've created so many series in between there, it gets forgotten, which is something I mentioned earlier. It gets forgotten. Now, and that's why they call it Kurorekishi, or like forgotten, or nobody talks about it, it's, you know, all that kind of thing. Now, the thing is that the word Kurorekishi is a Gundam term, okay? This came out of Turna Gundam. And I'm not going to go into Turna Gundam and Gundam itself, but people started using this term after they watched Turna Gundam. What was at the same time, around the same time of Turna Gundam's release in the Macross universe? Zero, which goes to the timeline before the first Macross. It goes before Do You Remember Love, right? So, because there hasn't been a story that actually directly connects to Macross 2 in any way, people just threw it out with the bathwater and didn't consider it. Kawamori has been considering it. You can tell that like through the Valkyrie designs and various things that are going on. Okay? Now, this is the important point that I copy-pasted in that stupid fucker's video, so I'm going to post it here. マクロス年表では確かに他の作品と距離を空けて位置づけられるマクロス2。だが忘れてはいけないのはマクロス2こそがマクロスに欠かせない歌、三角関係、バルキリーっていう三大要素を用いて新たなマクロスが作れることを示した最初の作品であるということだ。So, of course, in the Macross timeline, because there's such a gap between all the other series, you must not forget that because of Macross 2, it has the three main points of Macross: songs, love triangle, and Valkyries, or like spaceships, right? And it is also the Macross that led to all of the Macross being created after that. So if you like Plus, if you like 7, if you like 0, if you like Frontier, if you like Delta, people like Delta for the second movie. They don't like anything else about it. So just keep that in mind. That's basically all the Japanese opinions of it. Without 2, you have none of these. Okay? And Kawamori has said that, and Itano has said that. Okay? So keep that in mind. Kawamori has said that in interviews. And he said that in a New Type magazine interview. And he explicitly stated it, okay? I don't have that, thing brought up, but he did say that. If you know Japanese, you can look it up yourself. マクロスが挑戦した新たなマクロスを作るという 命題はその後に続くマクロシリーズの無限の可能性を引き出したと言える。So you can say that what Macross challenged to do for a new Macross and the series that continue after that, the Macross series, created unlimited, Macross 2 is a series that created the unlimited possibilities of the Macross series and the Macross universe. Okay? その後の長きにわたり続くシリーズのその大きなターニングポイントとなった作品、それが Macross II である。So, and Macross 2 was the turning point for all of the series that have continued long since its release. Okay? So keep that in mind. This is the official comment from Bandai, okay? Bandai, who released the Blu-rays and who was involved in Macross and was part of the project to make Macross 2 with Big West. Big West owned the IP. Bandai was doing distribution and other stuff and some of the the merchandising, which there wasn't much at the time, but there was some. There are garage kits of a Gilgamesh. There are garage kits of various stuff, okay? I wanted the Gilgamesh one. I really wanted a Gilgamesh garage kit. Which is the Marduk specific battle suit, okay? It's not the Zentradi battle pod kind of stuff. It is the actual Marduk thing, like Fef has a thing with the twin blades on the shoulders. Yeah, that's a Gilgamesh. So, this is Bandai's official comment. We have the comments from both Hirai and Takanashi. Takanashi, the producer. Hirai working for Big West. The people who own Macross. That own the rights to Macross. So, what this guy is saying, I'm going to go back just a little bit here because I want to make a specific comment about something he says. Okay? So, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have the audio play for this.
And second, out of the story, as a very clear example of how we fans do like for our franchises to keep evolving and keep moving forward with new and different stories. So my friends, I'm Absa, and it's time now to explore how, with a little bit of retconning and reinterpreting, Macross...
Retconning and reinterpreting, there's no need. All of the media, like I showed you with the poster, I have this book here, I've got all this stuff here. I showed you the 15th anniversary poster. Ishtar is on it, okay? And when they were doing the Macross channel had some, what is it? They had a big event to kind of promote Delta, the second movie, a few months ago. And, of course, the voice actor for Max was on there, Hayami Sho. Mikimoto got one of those, shikishi? Those little, card drawing things. I don't know how to say shiki in English, so just, I know what they are. I can't explain them. Just, whatever. He drew two special ones. He drew one for the show, and one for Hayami specifically. He drew a picture of Max from Macross 7, and gave that to him and signed it. The other one he drew was Basara Mirenu Mime Ishtar. I actually have the picture of that somewhere. But if Macross 2 wasn't part of that, they would have told Mikimoto not to draw it, okay? They would have told him, don't do it, because that's not part of the universe. We're ignoring that. It is the universe. You do not retcon Macross 2, because there's no need for it. Because this guy, because he doesn't know Japanese, he can't access, this information, okay? Macross 2 is canon in the Macross universe. And anyone who says otherwise, like this fool, is not a fan of Macross and has no right to say a single thing about it, okay? Macross 2 does not need retconning and massaging. Everything Kawamori has been done to keep Macross 2 as part of the canon, okay? You have to remember, and One final argument that people use for Macross II, and they get this information so wrong, and he got it wrong too, is that they say that Earth is basically locked itself in. Well, I've already showed you through different examples through Macross 7 and Frontier and Delta and things like that, that there's a reason for that. And also Macross VFX 2, the video game from PlayStation, also has relevance to this, okay? Then, there's no need for retconning. Everything was massaged specifically to keep Macross 2 in the timeline. Why do you think Earth shows up very little in all the other shows? Now, what I was going to get onto, the mistake that everybody likes to make with Macross and Macross 2 is that they say, well, there hasn't been a war on Earth in like 40 or 50 years, so it doesn't count. No. In Macross 2 specifically, in a flashback scene between Sylvie and Exegran, they actually, even Hibiki says it in the very first episode. I just remembered now. Hibiki says it in the very first episode, right before he's begging to go up to space to report on the battle going up there. He said, it was 10 years ago when I was 7 years old. That was the final time that any fighting had happened around Earth. And it was just a random splinter fleet of Zentradi that they managed to quell, they managed to put down with songs. Okay? Now, Macross 7, at the point of Macross 7, if you take, what is it? If you take what the episode with Chloe and the Meltrandi group, right? They talk about in that episode that there's no example because Mime is not around anymore. They have no evidence that they've been able to like peacefully squash, a Zentradi fleet. They had to just wipe them out. Okay? But in that time, because it's 45 years between 7 and 2, in that time, especially with that specific episode, Basara manages to get all the girls to, turn into band girls and get all crazy for Basara. He's so handsome, blah, blah, blah. They turn into big fangirls, right? At the very end of that episode. So, thanks to Basara, they found a way to squash any fight between Zentradi or Meltrandi, whichever you want to put it, right? There's no need for retconning because the last battle that happens in Macross 2's timeline, or in the timeline, is 2080 on Earth. It's not talking about anywhere else. It's only talking about this little place on Earth. And the thing is that because Earth is basically locked itself out, and there's not a lot of people coming in and out from Earth anymore. It's not like it was where they just said, oh, you guys go take care of yourselves and, colonize your own planets and deal with your own stuff. You deal with your own politics. The Earth completely locked itself out. There's zero need for retconning. Zero whatsoever, okay? So, I want this to be the point to be made. Macross 2 is canon. It will always be canon, and anyone who tries to do historical revisionism like this, I can't even watch what he's going to say about retconning stuff because it's complete garbage. You don't need to retcon anything because it fits in the timeline just fine. People make up excuses for why it doesn't fit in the timeline. I got in the same argument on a Japanese YouTuber's channel about this because they don't look at the details. I'm a massive Macross 2 fan. I know where all the connections are. I can find the connections. I think Macross II, after watching it yesterday again, I think is better than Do You Remember Love? In a few ways. Because it is different. People don't get that. It is different. It's very different. Okay? Their whole goal was to not make the original again. He's looking at it from such a superficial, stupid way, and doesn't look at any of the technological reasons, in-universe technological reasons, or even the stuff that comes out of Delta Zeta Raiwa, because you can't watch it. I can, because, you know, I speak Japanese, I understand Japanese. He doesn't. This is the same argument I got in him with Gaia Gear. I posted on his channel when he did a video about Gaia Gear, the Forgotten Gundam novel series. I've read the novel series. I know the difference between novels and the radio drama. I don't like the radio drama because I don't like the ending of it. I like the ending of the books. I read all 5 books. I own all 5 books. They're very, very expensive. Okay? That's how much, you know, I was willing to put the money out to be able to read these books, because they're so expensive and so rare, because they were only published twice. You can only, like, on the cheap end, you can find a full set for 9,000 yen. On the cheap side, typically they go for 15,000 or more for all 5 books. You know, 5 little light novels, Japanese light novels. 5 of them for 15,000 yen. I paid 12,000, okay? So you can tell. He did the same thing. He got the information wrong about Gaia Gear because he doesn't know Japanese. He's doing the same thing with Macross because he doesn't know Japanese. He can't actually look into the lore. He doesn't understand the lore. Because what? Frontier was never released outside Japan. 7 wasn't released outside Japan. Delta's not released outside Japan. Zero's not released outside Japan. The only Macross... They didn't even have Do You Remember Love outside Japan. Unless you got like some fan dub or something. You can only get these through fan dubs, right? So guess what? He has no idea what he's talking about. If Big West, Kawamori in interviews, the producer of 2, and all this media... Hell, I have a little Ishtar figure that I have here. It was part of the Macross figure collection or something like that a few years ago. They made one of Ishtar. If Macross II was not canon, why would they be making Ishtar? It's not a parallel world. It's not. So stop it with this revisionism and pretending like you know anything about Macross, okay? I know this video is very long, but I had to get this out because I'm tired of this. I am absolutely tired of all these people talking about this. If you want more evidence, say, well, show us pictures of all this evidence. I will take out my smartphone, or even my digital camera, record video of it, and point out all of this of what the Macross thing is, okay? Actually, to finish this off, nope, not that. The book I was using is this one. On the cover, there's no Ishtar. But you know what? On the inside, there is. Let's see. Do they have Ishtar here? Nope, not here. Not in this picture. Nope, 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 nope. No, but I just wanted you to see. Let's see. Is there Ishtar here? No, no Ishtar here. It's like they didn't... Whoever took pictures didn't really take very good ones, okay? And I didn't put any on this... There's none on this page either. But just so everybody knows, this is the book I was reading from. Okay? This is where I was getting all my information from just now. Like, not the interviews and stuff. The interviews are separate, but which I showed on those websites. But this is the book that came out December 30th, 2021. I own 2 of these. because I wanted one to have for a collection, and I wanted one to be able to just open up and use whenever I want to. So if it gets in pretty rotty condition, I don't have to worry about it, right? This has Macross II in it, okay? And now, what somebody might say if they read Japanese, it says Chojiku Yosei Macross Kara Macross Delta Made. So they'll say that, oh, they only talk about up to Delta. That's because Macross II was the second Macross series made. So in order of release is Macross 2 plus 7. Well, plus and 7 are about the same time. And then 0, Frontier, Delta. Which is why they put Delta last. Okay? Because Macross 2 was the second one. Okay? So don't make that up. This book has Macross 2 in there. And I own it. But I wanted to show everybody, just to finish this video off, that this is what I was reading from for a lot of the information I was trying to get, okay? So keep that in mind. This is an actual magazine that was released. You can't find it now. It's out of print now. But I bought 2 of them. Okay? Macross 2 is canon, and I'm tired of these revisionists saying it's not. Okay? So, that's all for this video. See you in the next one, whenever that is. And do, subscribe to, I will put the links to my alternate sources so you can watch all my other videos there, because I post stuff there that I can't post on this site, because I talk about topics that will, get my channel yeeted, okay? So, keep that in mind. Macross 2 is canon, and don't listen to any of these people who say otherwise.